Welcome to the Strut South podcast. Today on the show, we're going to talk to Lewis Backlas. This dude is a real cowboy, and I really mean like he's an actual cowboy. But he's also a huge whitetail hunter. And today we talked to him about how he combines the two together. And it's pretty freaking awesome. You guys stick around, listen to this episode. It's pretty cool. And also, go check us out on all the channels. Let's get to it. All right, guys, welcome to episode number 10. We have Lewis Backlas on the other line with us. But before we get into our conversation, I just wanted to say you'll be hearing this on Friday. I'm not sure what that date is, but today, when we're recording this, is September the 11th, and everybody knows what happened 2001, September 11th. The Twin Towers got attacked, and I just wanted to say, bring some light to that, and thoughts and prayers go out to those families dealing with that. And I just wanted to say that we're feeling for those people right now. But yeah, we've got Lewis on the line. What's up, Lewis?
Not much, man. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I come across you on YouTube, and you have a channel on there where you do some pretty unique style of hunting. And so I'm just going to let you kind of go into that and explain what it is that you do.
Okay. Well, first I want to thank you for having me on here today. It's kind of going to be fun for me to do this. This is the first podcast I've ever been on, so I appreciate you inviting me to come and talk. But yeah, we do things a little bit different up here when we deer hunt. We actually hunt off of, most of the time, we still hunt normal way too, but most of the time we hunt off a horseback with our bows. It's something that, I'd love to take credit, for it, but, my dad's the one that actually started doing it, a long time ago, back when I was little. I always loved to hunt and stuff, but it just was one of them things. My dad, he hunted, but he only hunted just to provide, food for the family. It was one of them deals. He'd go out opening day opening day of gun season, and he'd fill his deer tag, and then that was the end of it. But he would always, when he would do it, he would, instead of sitting in a tree stand, he would go out on his horse and hunt off of his horse. And, because we grew up, rodeoing and stuff like that. So he rode horses and trained horses, and he, my mom ran barrels, and we've got a block of woods behind our house. And after a while, we realized that you can ride your horse up to these deer, and they weren't spooking from it, as bad as like when you'd be walking on foot. So that's kind of how it came along. And then when I started getting older and started hunting, I was mainly a bow hunter, and then my dad, he got me a bow, and then he got a bow, and then we kind of were hunting together, and then, hunting out of tree stands, and then we the horse, and he got some pretty good sized bucks in it. So then it kind of, once I started getting old enough to really hunt and do it, I started doing it, and man, it kind of took off from there. We started doing a management program on our ranch here in Western New York, and started taking it to the next level and seeing what kind of deer we could get and seeing how close we can get to them. And man, I tell you, it's been an incredible experience, that we've been witnessing. It's been pretty awesome up here.
That's cool, man. I was wondering, as I was watching some of your YouTube shows, I was wondering what made you want to start trying to shoot deer off the back of a horse, and that makes complete sense. That's basically how you grew up.
Yeah.
So what? I guess does it not, the deer not even pay attention to the horses, or?
Well, they do in a way. You know, it's one of those things. Like if anybody goes onto my YouTube channel, which my YouTube channel is called Cross Over the River Outdoors, and if you go on there and you watch some of my videos, you know, I just show the highlights of the hunts on my videos. You know, because if I showed everything, then everybody would be just, you know, bored and not wanting to watch it. But it's not like that. You can just jump on a horse and just go right out there. And I've had people say, you know, if you read some of the comments, a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, this is all fenced in, these deer are tame. But these deer, the people are not seeing is the amount of time and hours that me and my family spend, prior to this. You know, we ride horses every single day, when we're home and not on the road. So we're out there all the time. My dad trains horses, so he's constantly riding them out, you know, riding young horses out through the woods, getting them ready for people. And it's like anything, you know, any other place, the deer get used to it eventually, and they realize that you're not a threat. As far as the deer is concerned, you know, it's just another animal out there. Four-legged animal ain't a threat to them. And so that's kind of, like I said, we spend hours and hours out there riding constantly. And so they get used to it after a while, and then we stopped gun hunting in our woods. It's all bow hunting only. And so there's no guns blasting around to spook them, and it's just bow only. It's quiet. And then as far as that deer is concerned, it's just one of our, you know, it's just a horse that got out of the pasture pretty much and just walking around the woods.
So they don't, based off the videos, it's almost like they don't even notice that a person is sitting on the horse.
No. Yeah, no, they don't. I mean, and plus the smell of the horse and stuff, it kind of covers up your scent, and it puts them at ease, and you can get away. I mean, if you stepped off a horse and, like, you know, got on the ground and the deer saw you, like, standing next to the horse, or like saw you walk away, then they're out of there. They're gone really fast. But yeah, as far as they're concerned, I mean, it's just an animal that's not going to bother them. And we've been able to we've had some pretty incredible experiences doing it. I mean, we've had, I've had bucks actually come after me, like charge me during the rut. I've had bucks actually come up, like, thinking I was another doe or whatever, and they come, like, up grunting behind me, and they get right behind my horse and they slam on the brakes and be like, "Whoa, wait a minute, this ain't another deer." So we've had some pretty wild experiences at doing it. And we've been doing it for a lot of years, and every year it just seems to get better and better.
That's crazy, man. It's actually pretty awesome. It's just weird to see that style of hunting if you've never heard. Because before I had never even heard of hunting anything off of horseback, especially a deer.
Right.
That's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And some of the videos too, man. The videos, they're insane. In my opinion, they are, because I've never seen anything like that. You're in New York, right? I think you said Western New York. Yeah,
we're in Western New York, and if, like, anybody's ever heard, like, most people have heard of Niagara Falls, we're about 45 minutes south of Niagara Falls in Western New York.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm sure, which we talked about this before we actually started recording. So I'm sure y'all get some pretty cold weather up there.
Oh yeah, we get real cold weather, a lot of snow. Especially where we're at, we tend to get some pretty good snow amounts, because we got some big lakes that are kind of around us. And yeah, it gets cold. Not quite as cold as it gets up in Canada, like in Alberta and stuff, but, you know, it still gets down there and in some single digits, and a few times we'll get below zero during the winter, and it's not too pleasant. In wintertime, I kind of like to be down where you guys are in Georgia or Florida, down in that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you, I would, if we could trade, I would trade with you, because I would much rather. I don't experience snow enough to, I guess, not want it. So, but I wish it would snow every year here, but it don't. And I'm gonna tell you, in the wintertime here, you might get a few days where it's in the teens. Other than that, you're lucky for it to get 30 degrees.
Yeah,
Yeah,
total opposite here.
It doesn't get cold.
If you ever want to be cold and have a snow day, you're welcome to come up here and experience it.
Well, it actually, I mean, it sometimes it will go on a streak where it'll snow maybe a few years in a row, but it'll snow like once, and which I'm cool with that, and I would love to hunt in the snow more, but you don't get the opportunity to hunt in the snow very much down here because it doesn't really get cold until deer season's over with, like in January and February.
Right. Yeah, that's one thing I will say about up here. The first part of my life, like I kind of grew up in like Florida and down there in the South area, like where, down where you guys do. And, so for a while I didn't like see too many winters. I mean, I'd see a few days of snow and then we'd pack up and head down south. So I'm kind of a southern boy at heart, but I tell you, to see them big bucks and to see them deer in that snow and stuff like that, that's one thing that makes me, that I can actually live with it and, put up with it, is getting to watch the deer and stuff in the snow, because it sure is a pretty sight.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always wanted to be able to shoot a deer in the snow, and I've only hunted in the snow maybe 3 times my entire life, so chances are pretty slim. But we'll talk more about the hunting off of the horseback deal. So what is a day? All right, say you're gonna get up and you're gonna go hunting. What does a day or a morning or evening or whatever, what does that look like? So, step by step, like what do you do when you're getting ready to go out?
All right. Well, it depends who it is. If it's my dad, he usually, he throws his blue jeans on and his barn coat, and he'll grab his bow and he'll go jump on his horse and go for a ride and, carry his bow. But, usually what I do is I tend to before I go out and hunt, I'll grab my stuff, go take care of horses and feed. Usually I'm too excited to go check the woods out every morning, so I usually don't do chores first. I usually jump on my horse first and go ride around and I'll go look things over, and I'll just bring my video camera with me. I usually don't take a bow with me, when I first go out into the woods, because, there's a lot of times where, there's a couple times I didn't see a big mature buck until 3 or so weeks into the season. So that's a lot of extra weight carrying that bow around. And so I normally just go out and take my video camera and ride around, and we've got trails cut through our woods. So I'll take them trails. I'll start at one trail and just work my way all the way through back and forth until I come to the end and see what we see. If we get on a big buck, then I'll run back and grab Dad, and he'll usually start video, and he'll take the camera, and I'll grab my bow, and then we'll head out there and try to stalk up on him and get a shot at him. Most of the big deer that we have harvested, we've done it that way. Usually I'll spot him out there first, and then we'll go back, get a plan gathered up, and jump on and start going out after him. And some hunts, like I was saying earlier, we're talking about the deer smelling, the does and stuff like that. Some hunts that hunt there lasted 6 hours, and we don't actually saddle our horses up neither when we go. Usually we ride bareback. We'll throw a saddle blanket on our horses and just go bareback, because I'm kind of lazy about saddling my horse up, and I just soon throw a saddle pad on them and go. But we hunted that deer for 6 hours straight, never came back to the house. We just stayed out there with him. We just kept circling around him, and he kept moving the doe and moving, and we kept moving, just trying to jockey him for position, just trying to get a shot at him. And finally at the end of it, my dad had like a little 5-inch or 6-inch hole that he was able to squeeze that arrow through and get him hit and put him down. But then I've had hunts on there that lasted a couple of minutes. Sometimes you can go out there and it just fall into play, and they give you a shot right off the bat, and then you can get it. there's one hunt on there where I actually took a friend of mine, a girl out. Her name was Marissa, and she's a rodeo photographer, and she takes pictures at all of our rodeos and stuff. And she wanted to get a buck with a crossbow, and there was we had a buck out there that was an older deer, but he just didn't have a big rack. He was more of a kind of like, I call him a management buck, and he probably was 2 or 3 year old deer, but she was more than happy to shoot him, so she jumped on the back of the horse at me, and you can see that hunt actually on one of my YouTube videos. It's I believe it's a 2016 video, part 3 of season 1. You can see that hunt, and I took her out there and we rode. It just happened the buck had a doe and they were standing fairly close to the trail, and I just was riding down the trail. He stood there with that doe because she wasn't running, so he wasn't moving. And we walked right up next to him about 20 yards, and she shot him. We had him shot from the time she got on my horse to the time she put an arrow in him, probably was all of 10 minutes into it.
Man.
It was really fast.
Crazy.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people think that it's like all it's all like domesticated and it's all a joke, but seriously, I mean, it's not. I mean, sometimes it can be 6 hours, sometimes it can be an hour or 10 minutes. It just all depends on what time of the year it is, if some bucks are with does, and all that. So
it's very similar to what it sounds like. It's very similar to turkey hunting.
It can be.
It's like turkey hunting deer, pretty much.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, because that's how I turkey hunt pretty much. I mean, I've already got all my stuff with me, of course, but you're pretty much just out there looking for a deer, and then you see it, and you make a move on them. That's the way I do with turkeys.
Yeah,
that's
and
pretty awesome.
And some people, if some people hear that and go, well, that's not hunting still. I mean, you go out there, you ride around, okay, and then there's a deer and you just walk up and shoot it. Actually, on that same YouTube season, I believe it's 2016, season 1, hunting off horseback, to be on part 1, I kind of made that mistake of not having my stuff out there. And we went for a ride that morning. Me and my dad both did. He took one horse down one trail. I took another one down another. And it was early October, and we ran into this buck that I'd passed up the year before. There was actually 3 bucks that we had passed up the year before, and this year they were going to be, shooter bucks. And I ran into this deer, and he was a real nice, tall tying 9-pointer, and he was not like the type of buck. He wasn't as big as I was hoping him to be. I mean, he was still a Pope young buck. He scored about 135 inches. He was a real nice deer, but he just wasn't what I was looking for that year. And I told my dad about him. We met back up, and I'm like, yeah, he's right over there. And I was like, you want to go take a look at him, get a better look at him with the camera and stuff. So he's like, yeah. So we went around this other trail, and as we were riding back towards the area where this deer was, my dad, I heard him signal to me, and I turned and looked at him, and he pointed, and right over to my left-hand side, about 25, 30 yards, was one of the other bucks that we passed up from the year before, and he was a monster. He probably, looking at him, I figured he'd probably score 150, 155. He was a big 11-point buck, just a beautiful deer. And he was standing right there in the open. I could have had a good shot at him, but I didn't have my bow. I just had the camera, and I videoed him for a couple of minutes, and then we turned around, ran back, got the bows, and Dad jumped on with me with the camera, and we rode the same horse at this point. Because early season, the bucks are a little bit more tougher to get close to because they're not chasing does. They're kind of just by themselves, so they're not going to let you walk right up to them. So we took one horse to kind of cut the sound down and everything else. And I went out there, and we were trying to get close to this buck, and he ended up somehow, I don't know how he did it, but he was there 1 second. I was watching him, and I looked away from him to kind of adjust my horse around to hopefully get a shot at him. And when I looked back up, he was gone, and I never seen him again throughout the whole entire hunting season. I don't know where he went or what happened to him. I never heard of anybody else shooting him. He just disappeared. And so that was one of those occasions where I wish I would have had my bow with me, on that before, I went back out there. If I had my bow right from the beginning, I probably could have got that deer. But I didn't. And it's just like regular hunt. It's just real hunting. I mean, sometimes it happens and sometimes it don't. And that was one time it did not happen for me. And, it didn't come into play. Later on in the season, I was able to take a buck not near as big as him, but I did get one later on in the season. So, but yeah, it's something that, it's not like you just go out there and shoot, there he is and you shoot him. I mean, you still got to work for it and, you still got to play the right game.
Yeah. Now, well, I think you said it before, but do y'all really try to hunt the wind in any way?
No, we don't. Yeah, 'cause you're on a horse, you don't have to do it. And plus, usually, we're out in the barn anyway, so we smell like a barn, and that kind of helps too. But I mean, it doesn't matter if you're in a tuxedo, and if you go out there on a horse, that horse scent kind of cuts it down, and they don't. I've had deer. I have had them like smell. I've seen them stick their nose up and smell, but I think the scent of the horse is so much stronger. It kind of overlaps the scent of you, and it takes it away, and they don't bother. It doesn't bother them.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I mean, I'm sure that there's some that have smelt me before, but nothing that has like, spooked out of there like they normally do. Now I've seen deer that we're not used, we see them for the first time, a buck especially. They come in our woods for the first time and they see that horse, then they'll stomp their foot and they'll blow, but they're not used to that type of an animal or that. So that's the only time I've ever experienced that end of it. But as far as playing the wind, no, that's something we don't do. The only thing that we try to do mostly when we're hunting on horses is to keep the movement slow and as quiet as possible, and not be running and gunning everywhere. I mean, sometimes you have to move kind of fast, but we never let our horses break into a trot. We always keep them like at a walk. Maybe a fast walk if we got to move quick, but otherwise we keep them slow, and that's the only way that you can get near these deer. If you're moving too fast and making too much noise, they'll split. And like I said, I've said it probably 10 or so times. These deer are so used to us because that's all we do is we just ride horses every single day. It's maybe once a day throughout the summer, but we're still out there. And we were out there every day one way or another. So they get used to it. And I've seen, I don't know about you guys in Georgia down in the South, but, a lot of places, parks and stuff like that where they got ATV trails that are like, there's no hunting zones and you can just drive four-wheelers. I've had deer let me drive right up to them on a four-wheeler before because that's all that, the four-wheelers are going through all the time. They get used to it. And so that they know if there's nobody hunting them off of four-wheelers, they know that the four-wheelers aren't going to bother them, especially if they see it all the time driving by. They'll just stand there and not care. It's the same thing with horses. Yeah. And if people, and I know like a lot of people out west, outfitters out west, they'll post pictures of their horses out in the meadow eating, and there'll be like a herd of elk with them. And so it's the same thing back east. I mean, if you know how to do it and you take the time and put the work into it and you don't spook them, they'll let you walk up to them. You can get fairly close to them.
When does y'all's season start?
Our season starts October 1st, and it usually runs about a week before Christmas, and then it finally closes.
Oh, okay. See, our season lasts so long. Our season comes in September the 8th, and that's archery season. And then the third weekend of October, our rifle season comes in.
Oh, really?
And that lasts for all the way till January 10th, I think, and maybe 15th. I can never remember, but yeah, our season lasts a long time.
Yeah, that's a really long season. I thought our season was really long, but that's a long, very long time to go.
Yeah. In a way, and I've said this before, I think I've said it on another podcast, on another episode, I wish that our season, I like that our season lasts that long. I kind of wish that our season didn't last that long, because the rifle season to me is just too long. It's like 2.5 months long, I think, from October 21st basically till January the 10th. And
oh my goodness.
Yeah. Basically almost 3 months is rifle season. And I always stress it that, the size of the deer you want to shoot, it doesn't matter. We talk about this podcast, we always talk about big deer, and we all love seeing big deer get shot on hunting shows and stuff, but the way I look at it is, if you want to shoot a deer and it's legal, then by all means go and hunt him and shoot him. But the downside to that is, if you do want to shoot a big buck, a mature deer, and you want to get into that range of 150-inch deer or 160 or above, and you have to make sacrifices if you want to shoot a deer that big. And I think that with our rifle season being that long, it makes it really, really hard for a deer to get old enough to get that big.
Yeah, definitely. We get the same. We have the same issue up here. It's not. Our gun season's not near as long, but like I said, we don't have a huge block of woods, and it doesn't take. And like I said, they can go wherever they please. There's no fences, so they can. If they decide that they're going to wander out during gun season, their chances of coming back are very slim, and it's hard to. My dad said this a lot, and I've been saying it too now. He says it's easier. It's easy to kill a big buck. It's really hard to grow a big buck, and let one live to be a big buck. And it's definitely the truth, because, you can let one, and I've had guys tell me this, and I always tell them, you got to let them young bucks walk, you got to let them walk, or else you're never going to get one big. And they're like, well, if I don't shoot him, then the person next door is going to shoot him when he walks past me. And that may be true. That may be true. And it's happened to me. I've let some really nice bucks go before, hoping that they would be, get another year or so on them, and, they end up getting shot. But I have also let some bucks go, and they have made it, and now they're hanging on the wall, or they're still running around out there that they're going to make somebody happy or be cool to look at, because they're really big. This is some chances that you got to take sometimes.
Yeah, I agree. The best answer that you can have to that question, or not question, but to that statement, if somebody says, well, if I don't shoot him, my neighbor's going to shoot him, or somebody else is going to shoot him. Well, if you do shoot him, you just became that person that you're talking about.
Yep.
You just became that neighbor if you do shoot him. So it's just that's the way I look at it. You can only control so much when it comes to deer. They're free animals. They're going to go where they want to go. Nobody owns any of the deer. And unless you got a high fence, them deer, they're going to go wherever they want to go, and you can't control if they go to your neighbor's property.
Right. Yeah, you can't control them. All you can do is do a lot of praying that they decide to stick around. That's about it.
Yeah. But, the way I look at it is, I'm all for somebody shooting a buck that I don't care if he's a 6-pointer and he's only got 50 inches of rack on his head. If you want to shoot that deer, I mean, shoot him. If it makes you happy, I mean, shoot him, get him mounted. Because I know I've shot my fair share of small bucks, and I'm just as proud of them as the biggest buck I've ever shot.
Right. What was the big? If you don't mind me asking, what's the biggest buck that you've killed?
You know, honestly, I don't even know. Because it wasn't, you know, big enough for me to go, oh man, I wonder what he scores. Maybe 120, 125 inches, if that much. I mean, I've had opportunities, and me, I mean, you're actually learning a little bit about me. Everybody is actually on the podcast. I haven't talked about this, but I've only recently, maybe the last 2 to 3 years, I've really only recently started really actually hunting for mature bucks. Like, I want to make sure, I mean, whatever, size is not a factor when you only go in with the goal of killing a mature buck. I've had opportunities to where I could have shot 140, 150 inch deer. And last year, no, not last year, I'm sorry, 2 years ago, I actually was hunting a buck, and he was 160 inches all day long. He was 15 points. He was just a monster, especially for the area that I hunt in. And then I hunted him, had an opportunity at him, didn't get a chance to shoot him, had him come in on me. I saw him, everything, didn't get a shot. And so hunted him all year, waited till next year. He shows back up, and he just blew up, and he was enormous. He was 180 inches, and I never got a chance at him. And a guy that hunted the property beside us actually ended up shooting him on November 10th during the rut. So, but he was a giant, and I didn't feel bad about it. I mean, I was upset, of course. I was disappointed that I didn't kill him, but I was also glad for the guy that did kill him.
Right.
Because more times than not, man, you hear so many times of big bucks getting run over by a car, or they just completely disappear and nobody ever knows what happened to them. So I had a lot of history with that deer, and it was actually a good thing that I ended up finding out, you know, what happened to him, because during that deer season last year, he had disappeared, and I didn't know where he was. I quit getting pictures of him and everything. And then in November, he walked out in front of the wrong person and didn't make it.
Got himself shot.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like I was saying, I'm not going to judge anybody for the size of the deer. And I always say, I keep repeating myself, and I know, and I apologize, but that's what we want to show with this podcast is we're real hunters, and we just hunt, and we don't focus so much on the size of the rack. I mean, it's always a plus, and we want to kill big deer, but if I could kill a 4 or 5 year old, I'll take that over I'd shoot a 4-year-old 140 inch deer before I shot a 7-year-old, a 2-year-old 140 inch deer. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's, me, the way I was raised, my dad, back in the day when I was younger, he kind of was starting the management program here, and he was one of them guys, he was just mainly meat hunting, and, if he had a buck tag and a small, scrubby spike or something like that came by, he shot it, and that's what fed us. But later on in my life, when I started getting older, I I mean, I know everybody that's out there, every meat hunter that's, out there, everybody loves to see a monster buck. Like that, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, everybody sees a monster buck. That's what they talk about all the time. Remember that buck I saw like 3 years ago? He was a monster, this and that. And so, I love to watch him, and everybody does. So I was one of them guys that wanted to see big bucks, and I just assume, it's kind of crazy, but I just assume watch a big deer than I would kill him. I mean, I really like I love harvesting them. I love being able to shoot a big buck and put my hands on them, but I just enjoy watching them do the things that they do just as much, if not more so sometimes. I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. But like I said too, I mean, if it's a big old mature buck, I mean, there's nothing more exciting than hunting a big mature animal, no matter what size of the rack.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, and this kind of goes with what you're saying, just being able to watch big mature bucks. I mean, that deer that I hunted, I didn't kill him, but I learned so much just from watching him on my cameras. And the one time that I had him come in, I didn't get a shot on him, but the one time he came in and I actually saw him in person, I mean, it was just unreal the way that he acted. He was probably I'm going to say he was a 6-year-old. And he was, at that time, he was 160 inches. And it was amazing how much different he was compared to all the other bucks that I'd ever seen in my life. He just he carried himself different. I mean, he walked. Everything he did was completely different. Every step he took, it was almost like before he took that step, he thought about it. And then, I mean, I sat there and watched him for 45 minutes. And he moved a total of about 20 yards in 45 minutes. And he wasn't eating anything. I mean, yeah, there was acorns on the ground. Acorns were dropping white oaks, and but he wasn't just mowing down and munching on some food. He was just standing there looking around, and every once in a while he would put his head down to get an acorn out of the ground or something, and it was just amazing to see how cautious he was.
Yeah. They don't live to be big bucks by being careless. They gotta be smart, and deer are really, I've heard a lot of people say that deer are not really intelligent, but I think a whitetail deer is probably one of the most intelligent animals out there. And yeah, I mean, deer in the rut, they can be kind of dumb, and stuff like that, but I mean, everything is that way. But in general speaking, a white-tailed deer is super, super intelligent, and they're smart, and they remember. I'm pretty confident they can remember things. I know when they busted somebody out of a tree stand, I mean, they come by the next time. First thing they do is they look up in that tree stand and see if you're there. So.
Oh yeah.
They're a cool animal, and I love them. I love them, and love being out there watching them. It's one of the coolest things that I could ever do. I've been very blessed in my life to be able to see deer at a more, I don't know what's the word I want to use, but a more exciting way than most people get to.
Yeah. Y'all's rut, when does your rut hit?
Our rut usually hits right around, kind of most like every other state, it's right around the end of October, right in the beginning of November is when it starts really picking up here. Once you start getting, around, Halloween time, that's when it starts to really pick up. And hunting on horses, it's really incredible during the rut because we can get right. When you're hunting out of a tree stand or whatever, you're just sitting in one spot. You can't really move around. Whereas on a horse, we can kind of move around and follow them around a little bit. So you get to see some amazing things during that rut. It gets pretty wild.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, that's the way I used to hunt, not off of a horse, but when I was growing up, all I ever did, the way I hunted, we just hunted with a gun, and we just go and sit on the ground. And then when I was a kid, we didn't. That was right before the deer stand hunting got real big. And I mean, that's what we would do. I would go and sit in one spot on the ground and sit there for an hour or so. And, I mean, I would see deer, and then if I got bored, I would get up, I'd walk 100, 200 yards, go check another spot, sit there for another hour and see more deer. And I'm telling you, I saw a lot of deer hunting that way.
Yeah.
And I've actually, I mean, I love hunting out of a tree stand, but I've seen more deer hunting on the ground than I have out of a tree stand.
Yeah.
And I guess that might be because I move around a little bit, or especially when I was a kid, I moved around a lot more than I do now. But
right. Yeah. No, it's pretty, when on horses, like we were saying earlier, they get accustomed to us. And, it's not like, not every deer, lets you walk right up to them. And it's not like you can just jump on any horse and go out there and expect to get near them. I mean, we put a lot of time and a lot of hours in riding our horses. And, my horse, he's learned, I've had him for probably 8 years now, and I've been working with him every year. And he's gotten to where when I take him out in the woods, he goes really slow. He steps extremely soft, like so you can barely hear him almost. And when I ask him to stop, he stops and stands there and just does, and he holds perfectly still. And they got to be that way, or else you'll spook all the deer out. Because a horse is a big animal. I mean, that's, your average horse is going to weigh 1,200-1,300 pounds, and that's a big animal out there. And when they get to fussing around, it sounds like a bull moose coming through the woods, and it scares a deer. So we put a lot of time in our horses, make them walk quiet, I try to make my horse walk like a deer almost, really smooth and slow, and yeah, we can get right up on these deer. And when they're rutting, I mean, some of the stuff that you get to see is incredible. I've always taken a video camera out with me. Now I'll go into that just a little bit and let you know where that kind of came from. When I was little, I was probably 6 years old, I saw my first hunting video, and it was Real Trees Monster Buck Sticks. And ever since I saw that video, that's all I wanted to do was videotape hunts, and have my own hunting show and this and that. So every time I go out in the woods on a horse, I always had my video camera with me to see what I can catch on there. And I've got videos of bucks fighting. I've got tons of videos of them rubbing trees, scraping, tending does. It's a pretty neat thing. It's hard to explain to somebody that's never seen it before. You're probably thinking the same thing, man, this guy's crazy what he's talking about, but you can't really appreciate it until someone sees it in person to understand what we go through and what we see up here.
Yeah, well, just from me watching a couple of your episodes, I can see where you're sitting here saying, y'all are during the rut, you have some really great encounters, and I can kind of see that just from your videos. And I actually watched a couple of them today. There was one where you killed that buck. He's a 10-pointer, and you shot him in the snow, and he was with a doe, and you had to keep moving around on him. I saw that one today. Yep. That one was pretty cool.
That's probably one of my, he wasn't, that buck wasn't the biggest buck I'd ever shot, but that was probably the most exciting and coolest hunt that I had ever been on, because like you said, it was in the snow, during the rut, and he was with a hot doe. And, man, there was deer, certain days are better than others, and that was the first snowfall we had of the year, and it was just beautiful. It was not super cold. It was just cold enough that snow would stick, and there's this deer all over the place on our property. And our property is it's strange. Like right now, if you go out in my woods right now, you may see like at the most, if you see 12 deer in my woods right now, that's pretty awesome at this time of year. But when it gets later towards like, rut and, wintertime, you'll see a lot more deer. I guess they come in, it's their winter grounds and their breeding grounds, I guess. But that day there, everywhere you looked, there was a deer, there was a buck. They were dog and does all over the place. And, it was just really, really neat to see. It was an unbelievable day out there.
That's awesome. Yeah, we don't really have that much action down here. I mean, if you get on a good place, yeah, that's probably kind of what you were saying. It might be because, your stationary, the way we're hunting out of a stand, so
right.
You can only see so much. But it's not unusual to go hunting down here and only see one deer while the whole entire hunt.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we get that way too. I mean, I like, my dad, he's really the one that did the horseback, started the horseback hunting. That's his thing. He'd just as soon go out and ride out on his horse and hunt and, get a shot at one, hunt it and stalk it on horseback. I like to sit in a tree stand. I think that's fun too, but I like it off horseback also. I mean, it can be a challenge. Especially when you start getting on one that's not from around our hunting, around our block. A lot of times we'll get, we got resident deer that live in our woods, and of course they're used to us because they see us every day, but then you get some deer that have never even seen a horse before, and they're like wanting to beat it for Dodge City, but then like they're starting to run off, and then they stop and look, and all the other deer are just standing there looking at them like, what are you running from? And then it's kind of fun when you try to hunt. It's fun trying to hunt those ones because they're really trying to get out of there and not wanting to let you get too close, and you really gotta stalk them and sneak up on them and hope to get within range of them.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. It makes complete sense because anytime I guess they just look at deer. I mean, deer look at horses the same way they do any other farm animal. If you got a pasture full of cows, they don't, they're not going to be really too spooky of those.
Right. Yeah, a deer is, like I said, when it comes hunting season, I'm in the woods. Deer hunting is my life. I mean, it's something that I was born to do. So ever since I was little, when it was fall time, I would spend hours and hours in the woods, whether I was on a horse or just sitting in a tree or anything. I just go out and video them and watch them. And deer really can get accustomed to certain things and get used to certain stuff. And so if you keep, as much as we do it, they just get used to it after a while, and then you can get closer. And like you were saying with cattle, you'll see deer out in cattle pastures and all the time, and even in horse pastures. If it's something they're used to, then, and they know it's not going to hurt them, or make a loud gunshot noise, they'll let you walk right up to them and get in there. But a lot of people just see my videos and they think, well, that deer's tame because he just walked right up to them. But they don't see the hours that we spend out there, beforehand,
right,
and where these deer get accustomed to it.
Yeah. Now, do you guys? I mean, I know you said you like hunting out of a stand. Do y'all have situations where you will hunt out of a stand?
Yeah, yes, we got a couple tree stands in our woods, and we don't do it too often, because, we try to keep our scent out of there. But if you do want to hunt out of a tree stand, you gotta be taken in on a horse and dropped off on a horse, get dropped off and then hunt. And then when you want to leave, you gotta call back up to the ranch and have someone come and get you, ride the horse out there and pick you up and take you out. And it's made a huge difference as far as, our deer program, because we don't have a huge block of woods. We're hunting a small area. It's only like 60 acres that we hunt. But as far as deer are concerned, there's nobody that walks in them woods, and they feel safe there. So, we have a pretty good operation going on around here, and it works. It's paid off. and this is something I want to throw out there to everybody that's listening. It's something that I would not encourage people to do it right, do it at home. In order to do it, you need to be pretty savvy about riding horses and shooting, because it can be dangerous if it's not the right situation. So I do want to throw that out to people, don't just go buy a horse and grab a bow and start doing it. Like I said, this was years and years of hard work to get it to where we are today. And so I just want to make sure I tell people that, because I don't want to see anybody get hurt off of seeing something I was doing and then they go try it. No, that looks pretty easy, and then they go buy some horse from Joe Schmo and horse is not broke and someone gets hurt off of it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, our horses are trained. Our horses will go, because we rodeo for a living during the summertime. That's what we do. We put on rodeos and shows and stuff. And so our horses are trained for, sketchy situations, and they can, they handle that stuff. If we got to rope a bull, our horses will run in there. We can rope them and they'll handle them. And so when we go out in the woods, they're not going to spook at stuff. They're going to respond off of what we do, and they're going to listen to us and be calm about it. So that's something that everybody needs to take into contact. I mean, our horses are just horses that you don't just pull off the side of the road. I mean, they're trained and worked hard I shouldn't say worked hard, but spend a lot of time with them to make them quiet and easy going out there and safe.
Yeah. I know I definitely couldn't do it, because I've rode a horse before, but I'm not savvy at riding a horse. So if something happened and the horse started freaking out on me or something, I would probably get slung off real quick.
Yeah.
But another thing I wanted to ask was, we haven't talked about trail cameras, and do you guys use trail cameras in any way?
Yes, I do actually. I like having trail cameras out there, because as much time as I spend out in the woods, I mean, like I said, when it's around this time of the year, we go out there every day, and sometimes I spend a lot of time out there, but I'm still not out there all the time. So I do have a few trail cameras that I have set up, not only to monitor the deer, but also for trespassers and poachers and stuff like that. I keep them out there to kind of keep an eye on things that way too. 'Cause like I said, when hunting season comes around, I'm out there a lot, but those times that I'm not out there, I can still be there with having trail cameras. So yeah, I do, to answer your question, yes, I do use trail cameras. And I enjoy them. I enjoy getting pictures back. I think they're pretty cool, and videos. I have them set on both.
Yeah. I will say I do kind of feel bad for you because your season opens, you said October 1st, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I do feel bad for you in that regard, because in my opinion, if you're trying, which actually it kind of evens itself out, I guess, with you the way you hunt, because you can kind of move around and actually sneak up on a bedded buck, and that's a cool video too. You got one on your YouTube, but having your season with us, with the way our season is, it opens basically first week of September. It really, really makes it easy to kind of hone in on a buck while he's still in his summer pattern. He's not worried about does and all that stuff. And usually around here, once it gets October, it's just kind of basically more luck than anything else to see a big buck. But September's usually a pretty good. You got a really good chance that first or second week of the season to probably get a big buck.
Huh. Yeah, it's funny. up here, it's, when the rut comes in is when we got the best chances of getting them. And, my property, and I'll go into this a little bit too, as far as talking about my property the way it is, summertime, we don't even see our bucks around our area throughout the summer. Like I've only seen, there's a couple bucks that we let walk last year, and I've seen them like maybe twice, in velvet, like in the beginning of the year, like right after May, like right in June time, I seen them, and that was it. And they travel quite a ways, but throughout the summer months and early fall, you may see like one or two of our local does that live in our woods. You may see them and their fawn, but otherwise you go out in my woods on a horse, you'd be lucky to see one. It's kind of like you were saying down there in October time, it's kind of this luck, but here it's the opposite. You go out there and don't see much, but when we start getting into like the second, around the October 15th or the 15th, that's when we start seeing them. When that weather starts changing and it starts getting cooler, then they start moving back. It's strange how they do that, but yeah, they travel quite a bit. Like I said, I don't even know what they look like until they show up, in late October usually.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that I think the reason why that is, I mean, it's probably not, but this is just my guess. Deer, like down here, I mean, it's like they're used to the heat. So summertime, like I've noticed, we'll get pictures in the summer, like July, August, and I mean, we'll get pictures of bucks like all the time during the day, at pretty much any hour of daytime. And I don't know, it may be that like up there where you are, the deer may not be used to the warmer temperatures as much. So in the summertime, they stay in a lot tighter and they probably don't move a whole lot, if any. And they just wait until it gets cold to actually get up and start moving around. Because see, down here, our summers are hot, but it'll stay warm. It'll stay warm all the way till November. And then, I mean, yeah, when we get cold days, I mean, yeah, of course we start seeing a little bit better action. But I mean, that's my opinion on that. I think it's just they may not be used to the heat, and they may stay pinned down a lot more when it's warmer like that.
Right. Well, I've come to find this is what I've experienced out of, from up this way, up here in the Northeast. I've come to find that where a deer will spend his summer, he typically won't spend, his fall and winter time there. They got their summer grounds, and it's kind of like elk. Elk have their summer where they hide out in the summer, where they're at in the summer, and then in the fall in winter they head down off the mountain and stuff. The same thing with deer around here. And a lot of guys, I'll see a lot of my hunting friends, they'll post pictures of this, these bucks that they're getting and on cameras. And then when they go to hunt them, they're gone. And that's because the season's later. And by that time that season comes in and they start to go out there, not only are the deer starting to want to move out of that area to go to their fall breeding grounds or winter grounds, but also they've got the hunting pressure that's coming on, and they know the difference when people are starting to go out in the woods. They know what time of year that is, and they're going to go back to where, especially a big old buck, big mature buck, he's going to go hide out where he knows he's not going to get bothered. And I think that has a lot to do with it, and I see that all the time here. Because like I said, when we got horses, they don't know there's people around. To them, there's not a person in the world within that 60-acre block But once they get outside that block, they know that that's where they can get shot. And I've seen deer during gun season or during the rut, bucks chasing does. I've seen them bucks chase them does, and this may sound crazy, but me and my dad are both witnesses to it. I've seen them run them deer right to my property line, and I've seen them does slam on the brakes and spin right back around and run right back into the middle of my woods, just like there was a fence there. But there wasn't. All there was posted signs saying stay out, but they get right to that edge and they turn right back around and run back in, and they know that once they get past that area, they can get shot, and they know where to hide.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I completely agree with that, because there was this one particular property where the same property actually that I was hunting that big deer. It was a super, super thick property. It was, I'm going to say 70% planted pines. I mean, I would get pictures, a lot of them more at nighttime than anything, but I got pictures of several good bucks and a lot of deer, does, and we would always see deer tracks all the time. I mean, it was just covered with deer sign, but because it was such a thick property, it made it really hard to hunt because the deer didn't come out. Like the spots that you could hunt were a little bit more open. So you're just sitting there hoping for them to come out of that thick stuff, and they don't want to leave that thick stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the same. We get the same up here. When it's hard to kick them out of thick brush. They get in there and they know that, how many people are going to go through a thicket to get to them. Not many people will try to venture in there to kick them out. And, that's what we come to find up here too. If you give them, and I tell people this a lot, like a lot of people, they've asked me, cause for like 10 years in a row, between me and my dad, we shot a Pope and Young buck on our property. People, they'd be like, well, what do you do? Like, what do you do differently to get big bucks? And how do you guys do it? I mean, we don't live far from you, and I mean, we're lucky to see one. And, first it is a blessing from God for sure that we get to experience this, but in a lot of prayer, because I always am like, if I see a deer I want to see live, I'm like, oh Lord, please keep him around, don't let him walk out of here. He's got a couple more years of growing, but a lot of it has to do with the amount of pressure that you put on your property, and also your doe population has a lot to do with it, to keep them around and stuff. We actually, when we don't even, out of all the years, we've probably only shot, maybe you could probably count on both my hands, the amount of does that we've ever taken off of our property. We don't shoot does. We usually just let them roll. And wherever they are, and if you give the does a place to live and feel comfortable, well, that's where the bucks are going to be, and they know that, and they're like we were talking about in the summertime, they're not worried about does. They're just bachelored up together, and then but once fall comes around, they're going to go where them does are, and them does have a good place to live, and that's where the bucks go, and that's usually where they come, right to here.
I feel the same way. My opinion, me and Philip, he's another guy that's in with us on Strut South. We were actually talking about that the other night after we got done hunting, and people always wonder, we don't have it. If you don't have any deer, we're like, man, we ain't got no deer, or we don't see any bucks, and more often than not, unless you have a really huge farm that you're managing, and you're actually, you've got at least 10 acres or more of food plot for a very large amount of deer, most of the time you're not going to have, I don't want to put a number on it, but you're not usually going to have a big number of deer on a property. I mean, of course, there's deer everywhere, but you're not going to have 100 does on a property. At best, if you've got a 200 or 300, 400 acre property, in my opinion, you're probably going to have anywhere from, and this is for me hunting down here in Georgia, you're probably going to have anywhere from 20, 30, at max 40 does on that property. But then, people always ask, well, we don't see any deer. We don't know what to do. Well, how many does did you shoot? Well, we shot like 10 or 15. Well, there's
your answer. Yeah.
I mean, if you've got 40 does, and that's the thing. I mean, you have to figure out how many does you have, and that's hard to do because it's hard to tell how many you got. It's hard to tell the difference in them. But I'm just gonna say, if you got 300 acres and you shoot 10 does, you probably shot too many does.
Yeah.
Especially, and that's another thing, especially for here. I don't know how y'all's tags work, but down here, I think it should change drastically. We get 10 doe tags and 2 buck tags.
Wow, you guys can shoot 12 deer total for a season.
Per year, yeah.
Wow. Up here, it's a lot different up here. Up here they give you, I think the most tags I ever had for one unit may have been 2 doe tags and 2 buck tags. You can usually get at least 1 doe tag to 2 doe tags, and then you can get a regular season buck tag, which is a gun, and that tag's for a buck only during the regular season, unless it's during late muzzleloader season, then you can shoot a doe on it, and then your archery tag is for a buck or a doe. But otherwise, yeah, usually, and they do have the doe tag set up to where if an elder, you can sign a doe tag, like if you're a New York resident and you're hunting with me and you didn't have time to go out and hunt, you could sign your doe tags over to me and I could go shoot a deer for you. But otherwise, it's per person. You usually can get just for yourself, 2 doe tags, and 2 buck tags is what you usually can get if you're an archery hunter.
Well, it's like with me personally, it's always been like that for as long as I can remember. I mean, way back in the day, it used to only be, you could only shoot a handful of does. I don't remember how many it was, but we'd only get doe days. And there was only certain days during the season that you could shoot a doe. Any day you could shoot a buck. You still only got 2 buck tags, but you could shoot them any day of the year, any day of the season. But does were, you only had so many days where you could shoot does. And I don't know what made them change it, but now, like it's 10 tags for does, 2 bucks, and it's basically no holds bars all year to shoot. And I've never shot 12 deer in one year. Never. I mean, of course, I've had opportunities where I could have, but to me, it's just that, like you said, I mean, I think that's really, really important, what you're talking about with the does. If you want your deer to keep on keeping on, you gotta have does. Your bucks will come, but you have to have does.
Yes, you've got to have them, and it's the same thing with and a lot of guys too. They go, well, I'm going to shoot a big mature doe. This is just a little bit off the subject, but not too much. It kind of goes along with the same thing we're talking about. A lot of guys, everybody says I'm going to shoot a big old mature doe, and because, evidently if you shoot a big old mature doe, you do get more meat out of it or whatever if you're a meat hunter. But it kind of hurts you in a way also because if you think about it, like if you take a regular cattle farmer that's raising cattle, he's going to have his mama cows out there and he's going to breed them back to a bull and he's going to get calves out of them. And if they have a heifer calf, that heifer calf ain't going to be breedable for a whole, year or two, and then, you'll get a calf, but he's not going to go and kill his best mama cow and put her in the freezer. He's going to put one of his young calves in the freezer or something like that. Well, we've come to find it's the same thing with the deer herd. If you shoot an old mature doe, you're kind of killing, two fawns with her, because usually a doe up here is going to have two fawns. And so you're knocking out a chance to have another buck in the future. And it kind of will hurt your hunting too in the future, kill your population down. Whereas if you go and shoot like a yearling doe, that's not going to hurt you, because she's probably only going to have maybe one fawn for her first year or whatever. So we come to find that out that, you got to let them older does live. And if you're going to shoot a doe, shoot a young one. You're not going to get as much meat out of it, but you're going to get tastier meat out of it, and it's going to be better for your deer herd as well.
I did a podcast with a wildlife biologist, Bronson Strickland. He's a biologist down at Mississippi State, and he works with the Mississippi State Deer Lab. And that's what he said was, the best age for a doe to have fawns is anywhere from 3 to 4, 3.5 or 4.5 years old is like perfect age for does. So, I agree with you there. Well,
yeah,
I think we've covered a pretty good bit. We'll go ahead and start wrapping it up. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or?
I'm pretty good. I've had a great conversation with you. I hope I wasn't too boring to the people that are out there listening, and so they all want to hear us have another conversation in the future. This is my first podcast here, so I appreciate you letting me come on and talk with you. It's been fun.
Oh yeah, man. No problem. It's been exciting for me. I'm really glad you took the time to do one with us. I'm new to it too. I'm just learning it as I go. But yeah, anybody out there, y'all want to go check us out, Strut South TV. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And if you want a podcast, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Anchor. You can go to any one of those. Make it a little bit easier for you to get updated episodes every week. We'll try to get them out there every Friday. So if you want to listen to people babble about deer hunting, this is a place to come. But Lewis, I guess let everybody know where they can get a hold of your content and see some of your videos and stuff.
All right. Well, everybody that's listening out there, you can check out our hunting videos at Cross Over the River Outdoors. Again, that's Cross Over the River Outdoors on YouTube. And you can see several videos on there of us hunting off a horseback, as well as tree stand hunting. And I know you say, Ryan, you like turkey hunting. We got a couple turkey hunting videos that we're posting on there as well, so you can check some of that out too. But yeah, be sure to go on there and check out some of the videos. It's pretty cool stuff. And like I said, all of it's 100% fair chase. There's no high fences. There's no farm-raised animals. They're all wild whitetails that you're going to watch. So check it out. I think y'all will really enjoy it.
Awesome.